Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by and welcome to the global launch of the IEA Energy Technology Perspectives 2015. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. There will be a presentation followed by a question and answer session. Questions will only be taken via the telephone lines today. If you wish to ask a question at that time, you will need to press star 1 on your telephone keypad. I must advise you that this conference is being recorded today, on Monday, the 4th of May 2015. And I'd now like to hand the conference over to your first speaker today, Mr. Greg Frost. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to those of you joining us from the Americas, and welcome to our presentation of the IEA's Energy Technology Perspectives 2015. It is a pleasure to introduce our speakers today. Maria van der Hoven is the Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, and Didier Houssin is the former IEA Director of Sustainable Policy and Technology. Didier has just left the IEA to take over as President of IFPEN, the Institut Français du Pétrole et des Énergies Nouvelles, but at the IEA he was responsible for ETP 2015, and he has graciously returned to help us launch this report. Maria and Didier will discuss the report and its findings. After that, we are happy to take your questions. Before I turn the floor to Maria, please note that the slides that we are showing here today are available for download on our website at www.iea.org, as is the press release and an executive summary of the book. Maria, over to you.
Thank you very much, Greg, and good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, over the coming months, the world will be preparing for what is heralded as a historical meeting for climate change negotiations. And if the right decisions are taken, with the aim of making a sustainable energy future reality, we will be able to reap enormous multiple benefits, deriving not only from decarbonization, but also from reduced air pollution, better energy access, energy security, and economic prosperity. But we all know clean energy deployment is not at the level where it needs to be. It's now crucial for governments and other stakeholders to take effective decisions for energy sustainability. And this will not be possible by relying on yesterday's technology and policies. It's clean energy innovation that will get us on the right path. And that's the story of Energy Technology Perspectives 2015. And yet, as we all know, fossil fuel prices have tumbled in the last year. And this new price environment brings both challenges and opportunities to decision makers. However, these prices should not be an excuse to seek the short-term benefits of lower energy bills at the expense of a long-term sustainable global energy system. And the analysis in this year's ETP shows us the direction that we will need to take to achieve the 2-degree scenario of 2DS. And this is a scenario under which the evolution of the energy system is consistent with limiting the long-term increase in global temperatures to 2 degrees Celsius. With current policies, energy-related carbon emissions will exceed 50 gigatons of CO2 in 2050, and this is about 3 times more than what would be required to meet the 2DS. So transformation is needed, and it's possible. But the long-term strategy based on a portfolio approach is needed to shift to a low-carbon energy mix. And the deployment of innovative technologies is crucial in making this 2DS scenario possible. The good news is that energy innovation has already proven it can deliver. Previous innovation has provided us with options today that are already transforming the energy system, such as wind and PV. And indeed, wind and solar PV are now the lowest cost source of power in some number of regions. And this result, unthinkable only a decade or so ago, is the power of innovation. And given our current climate realities, more of that power must be unleashed on the world. The significant current and potential improvements to energy efficiency also stem from properly supported innovation. And some of the clean energy technologies needed in the future are starting to make breakthroughs, such as CCS and power generation. And already we are starting to see results, but this momentum must be accelerated, as we are still not on track to meet the 2DS. And policymakers will need to make sure that innovation will continue to deliver. The stakes are high for the energy sector, but it's also no stranger to profound technological change. An incredible chain of innovations in the energy sector has been at the vanguard of social and economic transformation for over a century. And it's exciting to see the progress being made by solar panels and fuel economy improvements of passenger cars today, to name but two. But we cannot be complacent. We are setting ourselves environmental and energy access targets that rely on better technologies. And today's annual government spending on energy research and development is estimated to be $17 billion US. Tripling this level, as we recommend, requires government and the private sector to work closely together and shift their focus to low-carbon technologies. The challenge is daunting, I know, but it is possible to fill the gaps. On one hand, the technologies are there, but they are not deployed. For example, energy efficiency technologies. So accelerating the deployment of existing technologies that still have some potential for innovation is important. And it's not a coincidence that this year we have added storage and hydrogen to the energy technologies we look at as part of our clean energy tracking report. On the other hand, there are the technologies that for the moment are just dreams. Now, for obvious reasons, ETP can only model existing technologies. But the right support to innovation, coupled with effective public-private partnerships, can provide the energy technology breakthroughs that could amplify or hasten the low-carbon transition. The shale, gas and oil boom of the last few years was virtually unthinkable at the dawn of this century. And if we only stick to the beaten path of today, we will miss the game changers of tomorrow. Now I'm going to let Didier Houssin walk you through the details of ETP, but before I do, let me just say that governments must recognize that innovation is not a linear process. It is an iterative process, a progress of problems that each phase affect previous phases and further developments. The complex nature of the innovation cycle can only be addressed through systemic policies that, for example, integrate technology push policies with market pull measures. And of course, governments need a clear vision on the perspectives on technology innovation and deployment, and that is where the IEA can play a key role. Much of the work on energy technologies in the IEA, for example, the technology roadmaps, is aimed at making this vision as much as accurate as possible. So now let me hand the floor to Didier. Didier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria, and I'd like to start our analysis on the current status of clean energy deployment and moving our analysis from the long-term perspective, as Maria explained, to a short one. We really see that the need to support innovation becomes even more compelling. Each year we track progress in clean energy deployment in our Tracking Clean Energy Progress Report. And what we see this year is that despite continued progress in many areas, for the first time, not even one of the technologies is in line to reach the 2DS targets in 2025. This graph here shows the status of clean energy deployment relatively to the 2DS targets. The colors of the bars illustrate whether a technology is on track to meet the 2DS objectives in 2025, and the arrows on the left side depict the more recent short-term development. So this year we have tried to examine the trends in various technology areas, digging deeper into the analysis, because on one side, when we look at the hard data, we see a slightly more pessimistic picture compared to last year. This year has shown actually another step backwards. We have gone from 2 technologies on track in 2013, 2 years ago, to 1 technology last year, and this year none of the technology areas is on track to meet the 2DS targets. But at the same time, we do believe there are some reasons for optimism despite this situation. While many technologies appear to be stagnant in their development, we have also identified several areas where, despite being off track, positive developments are being demonstrated. Technologies exhibiting positive developments include renewables power, carbon capture and storage, fuel economy in transport, electric and hybrid electric vehicles, and energy storage and hydrogen that we look into for the first time. I would like to reiterate that these positive developments are the result of efforts in technology innovation, but that we need to step up these efforts. So if we look at the past experience, we can build up the confidence which is necessary to step up efforts. Actually, in the past, the impact of research and innovation has always been underestimated. For example, we are now seeing continued progress towards cost effectiveness with some renewables as energy sources closing the cost gap quickly. Utility scale solar photovoltaics, PV, and onshore wind are now competitive with electricity generated by new conventional power plants in an increasing number of locations. Growth in distributed solar PV was also robust in countries where the cost of generating PV electricity in commercial and residential systems is lower than retail electricity prices. 10 years ago, very few people would have believed that solar PV would be starting to compete in both residential and wholesale electricity markets. At the same time, other technologies such as solar thermal electricity and offshore wind also continue to hold significant promise. Solar thermal electricity has been making some of the largest gains in the last few years and is expected to steadily improve to 2025. These achievements were made possible thanks to effective frameworks to support innovation, but also after many years of R&D. And it's the combination of such a framework, long-term R&D and market conditions that can trigger large-scale deployment, as we saw, for instance, with the shale gas revolution that has been made possible through a public-private partnership that fostered innovative extraction technologies. Let me now move to the demand side with the example of fuel economy in transport, which is of significant importance to reduce oil demand and related emissions, and it has been constantly making progress. This has been possible thanks to strong incentives in the form of regulation or financial support, which also created demand for more efficient technologies. Markets with stringent fuel economy policies in place, such as the EU, Japan, and the US, show the highest improvement rates in fuel economy of light-duty vehicles. This shows that a strong regulation approach in policy can have important effects in pushing innovative technologies into the markets. But OECD vehicle efficiency improvement rates of 2.6% per year for light-duty vehicles have not been matched by the larger and growing non-OECD markets. Actually, several important and fast-growing markets in Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, or Africa have not yet regulated fuel economy for transport vehicles. And this is dragging down the global average, where we see that the average fuel economy of cars has improved by below 2% per year, which is far below the objective of the 2DS of 3% improvement annually. So despite recent encouraging policy developments, further improvement is needed to meet the 2DS. In addition, fuel economy regulations have not been as widely adopted for heavy-duty vehicles as they have for light-duty vehicles. This means that there is still a largely untapped potential for improving fuel economy of heavy-duty vehicles through technology innovation. This chart explained about the evolution of R&D support in the energy sector. Energy RD&D is actually crucial to the development of new and improved solutions, and the recent shift in spending towards clean energy sources is promising. Some of the data that we examine is the public funding of RD&D by IEA member countries. And there, energy RD&D spending is lower than the early 80s peak, but support to clean energies has been increasing since the early 2000s. For instance, there has been a shift towards energy efficiency and renewables, and a large share of fossil fuel RD&D is now for CCS technologies. But despite this trend reversal, The share of total R&D, however, has fallen dramatically in percentage terms from a peak of 11% in 1981 and remained flat between 3 and 4% since 2000. This is a much lower share than for other sectors, suggesting that energy innovation is not among the priorities. But this only provides an incomplete picture of what is currently happening in the global energy RD&D sector. Actually, data for emerging economies and also for the private sectors are extremely lacking. So more effort should be made to better track RD&D expenditure at a global level. Another area we are looking into this year in ETP is the importance of using the right metrics to support more effective energy policies. Energy metrics can link more directly targets with the policies under the control of government that may be easier to adopt. Energy metrics can also reframe the climate challenge positively. Alternative greenhouse gas metrics, such as energy sector or energy technology metrics, can highlight short-term actions that underpin long-term transformation. To evaluate progress in the power sector comprehensively, technology-specific metrics for tracking progress on low-carbon electricity generation options should be combined with sector-specific metrics such as average emission per kilowatt-hour produced or the share of zero or low-carbon electricity. For example, tracking the average emissions intensity of new investment in power generation rather than the average emissions intensity of all existing capacity can allow policymakers to measure short-term progress toward long-term targets. Another example, in terms of energy efficiency indicators, they can help to quantify the potential contribution of energy efficiency measures to emissions reduction at the national level, thus helping countries to set appropriate targets and monitor progress towards stated goals. For example, each 1% reduction in electricity consumption in the building sectors globally can help to reduce emissions from power generation by 60 million tons of CO2. And another important point is the need to adapt the government support to the different phases of the innovation and deployment cycle, because the right support depends on the maturity of the technology and the degree of market uptakes. For technologies at the earlier stages of innovation cycle that need to substantially improve performance and reduce costs to achieve technical and economic viability, technology push mechanisms are most effective. These mechanisms can be research grants for technologies that are in the R&D phase or feed-in tariffs for technologies that are being deployed in niche markets. It should be highlighted that after low-carbon technology is commercialized, efforts to innovate will mostly come from the private sector, which will need stable long-term support to deploy and invest in R&D until the cost gap with incumbent technology is overcome. For technologies at more advanced stages of deployment, market pool policies are more effective, such as technology-neutral portfolio standards or actions addressing market barriers. The importance of taking into account the different maturity of different technologies, we have chosen this year to focus specifically on 3 technology areas covering various stages and sectors. First, mainstreaming the renewable power, where we show the ongoing need for support to remove barriers and reduce emissions through continued and increased deployment. CCS, where we explore how early and often niche deployment opportunities can leverage support and create spillover into other sectors. And the industry sector, where we examine the opportunities and challenges across the entire innovation chain of various sectors for global industrial actors. So our objective is to demonstrate the range of innovation efforts that are needed across the energy sector. Early stage support is key to improve future technological competitiveness, and identifying solutions that can be deployed to meet future needs has to be based on technology and fuel costs that are expected at the time of deployment. So you need to keep a long-term vision in putting in place such support. It's the case for CCS, which is progressing slowly, but at the same time there have been encouraging recent developments, such as the recent start of operations of the first power plant retrofitted with CCS in Canada. Analysis of CCS supports the evidence that widespread deployment requires the cost gap to be closed by determined parallel action in technology development, demonstration, and by market creation. Support should come in the form of targeted policies that create sweet spots where CCS technology can flourish, like CO2 enhanced oil recovery in the US or in Canada, gas processing, etc. And as the technology is progressing, if we put more effort to support innovation, we will likely see the cost reduction path that we have seen for other technologies also happening in CCS. And technology spillovers from non-power application of CCS will bring down costs not only through learning in capture, but also through development in storage. In order to gain the political will to support CCS in early stages, actions need to be guided by the potential business opportunity that will be created by the surrounding conditions at the time when the technology will need to be deployed. So the implication is that early stage innovation support needs to be evaluated not on today's technology cost and performance, but on expected future attributes. In the later stage of deployment, the environment in which technologies are competing will drive different support needs. In order for inventions to become innovations, they need to be deployed at a scale where they can have an impact. It means that the support they will require needs to recognize that non-technical barriers also need to be addressed. For example, many countries provided strong support in the form of subsidies, which in some instances led to a bubble. But now there is a shift to more market-based support mechanisms, in particular for renewables. For example, in the United Emirates, PV projects submitted bids as low as $60 per megawatt hour recently in December 2014. As wind and solar PV become more and more widely deployed, support needs to move from financial incentives to integrated and well-designed market policy and regulatory frameworks. Let me move now to the industrial sector, where innovation is essential for sustainable growth, and the deployment of innovative technologies provides almost 30% of the opportunities in the 2DS for the industrial sector. Of the direct annual CO2 emissions reductions that are needed in the sector in 2050 to achieve the 2DS, almost 30% will have to come from innovative process technologies. Deploying best available technologies will be among the most cost-effective emission reduction options in the medium term. But at the same time, spreading best available technologies can allow more innovation work on cutting-edge technologies. Deployment and innovation can reinforce each other in a virtuous circle. Deploying innovative, sustainable processes will be crucial in the long run, with CCS playing a key role. The experience shows that the value of stable long-term policies to promote innovation on low-carbon industrial technologies. Because long-term support can attract innovation investment more effectively than one-off fiscal instruments such as tax rebates. All regions of the world have a role to play in making the 2DS possible, and the solutions to enable innovation to contribute in delivering the 2DS will depend on local conditions, because national circumstances and resources will drive different solutions and pathways. This is a very important message of the ETP this year, that the contribution of innovation is to decarbonize the global energy system, but it's important to see that nearly 75% of annual reductions by 2050 will need to come from non-OECD countries. And the regional technology shares in primary energy supply in the 2DS show a strong variation among regions. Emerging countries have both different starting points, as you can see on the left-hand chart, and also different pathways and different end solutions to meeting climate goals. This is what we show also on the right-hand chart by 2050, where each country will have a very different picture in terms of portfolio approach. And this variety of solution is good news for these countries that can develop technologies where they can have a competitive advantage, helping these countries to develop their own decarbonization strategies. And at the same time, growing demand for energy and the infrastructure which is needed to provide it creates a unique opportunities for emerging economies to reduce CO2 emissions by deploying innovative low-carbon technologies. And during infrastructure build-outs, emerging economies can be early movers in applying a systems approach to roll out advanced low-carbon technologies. Local innovation capacity is key to the 2DS, and this is why we have looked into how to transfer technologies to emerging economies. So industrial and emerging economies need to work together to ensure solutions can be deployed at global level. The build-up innovation capacity in emerging countries can be supported with a variety of means acting at different stages of the technology cycle. These growing dynamic energy markets provide the most conducive environment for technology innovation, and the sustainability of any technology solution will depend on the capacity of the local population to install, maintain, and use it. So various local conditions will require technologies to be adapted. And developing a manufacturing base can help develop the skills that are needed to first adapt technology to local conditions and then to develop new solutions for local needs. International cooperation on energy technology innovation with and among emerging economies has value and could greatly contribute to accelerate decarbonization while providing economic benefits to all. This year we have a focus about China policy in the field of energy innovations. And our message is that China's energy policies will be a key driver to making the 2DS possible. ETP 2015 in its 2DS scenario sets an ambitious scenario for China in particular, reducing annual emissions by over 10 gigatons of CO2 by 2050 compared to business as usual. To cut CO2 emissions in 2050 by half compared to 2012 levels will be an enormous challenge for China, but it is achievable with the contribution of strong policies encouraging energy technology innovation. As you can see on this chart, there are various low-carbon scenarios that demonstrate a range of trajectories consistent with China's peak emissions target between 2020 and 2030. Almost 50% of the CO2 reductions in the 2DS are achieved in the power sector by increasing efficiency, switching massively from coal to gas, increasing the contribution from nuclear power and renewable energy, and also by deploying carbon capture and storage. In the industry sector, reductions arise from improved process efficiency, fuel switching, and also by deploying CCS. So our analysis shows that China is poised to become the global leader in R&D spending looking forward. This momentum could provide a huge opportunity for the low-carbon transition at a global scale if more innovative energy technologies can be developed in China and deployed globally. In 2012, China's R&D and intensity, which we define by its R&D funding as a proportion of GDP, matched that of the EU for the first time. Perhaps more significant is the rapid rate of advance. Between 2000 and 2012, China's funding for science and technology doubled from 0.9% to 1.98%, while EU funding rose more modestly from 1.74% to 1.98%. So China R&D intensity climbed to 2.08% in 2013, with funding of almost $200 billion, up $25 billion from 2012. And this is a sign of their dominant role in innovation, and as enterprises took more than 3/4 of the total R&D input. Based on projections from the OECD, this trajectory is likely to continue to 2020, with China overtaking the US, the present global leader in R&D, by 2019. As noted earlier, innovation is not a linear process. It is iterative, and success, setbacks, or failures at all stages can feed back into previous phases. This can be a complex process with many actors, but it can be aided through the integration of technology, policies, and market measures, and clear visions from governments. The systemic nature of innovation processes need to be reflected in integrated policy frameworks. ETP has repeatedly shown that a vision for a sustainable energy system is feasible, but we are not making enough progress. So what should we do? First, innovation across the portfolio of clean energy technology is essential for decarbonization. Second, innovation is needed at all stages of technology development, from basic science and early stage development all the way through full-scale market deployment. And in addition to the alignment of technology push and market pull policies, low-carbon technology innovation will benefit from consistent policy over time, linking of financial and technology goals to overcome financial barriers, coherence with emission reduction planning, and strengthening capacity. So I want again to reiterate ETP message that the transition to a sustainable energy system cannot be approached in a silo manner. We need to be able to manage it in a systems perspective. So in conclusion, as Maya van der Heuven just said, the year 2015 will mark a turning point in global climate change action with COP21. And as leaders strive to reach agreement on the need to move quickly on multiple fronts, capturing the benefits of a sustainable energy transition should be a top priority. In short, decarbonization goals are achievable and cost-effective, and we think that innovation can do it. Innovation has an important role to play for COP21, and a better understanding of the potential of innovation can certainly lead to more effective outcomes at the conference. Developed and emerging economies need to work together to deploy the solution that will have the highest global impacts. And also, it's very important to bear in mind that the private sector has a strategic role to play, and that policymakers should bring together different stakeholders through partnerships that could leverage capacity from all sides. So it's important to keep a long-term perspective, because policy actions need to take both the short-term and long-term horizon in mind. And from that perspective, current low oil prices should be seen as an opportunity rather than an obstacle to the transition to a low-carbon economy and to put our energy system into a sustainable path. Thank you.
Thank you, Didier. And now it is time for the question and answer session. Let me mention that we are recording this webinar for future use on our website. During this Q&A session, we are also joined by Jean-François Gagné, Head of the Energy Technology Policy Division at the IEA. Operator, we're ready to take questions.
Thank you. As a reminder, if you wish to ask a question, please press star followed by 1 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. That's star 1 if you wish to ask a question or simply make a comment. If you wish to cancel your request, please press the hash key. Once again, if you wish to ask a question or make a comment, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad and wait for your name to be announced. If you wish to cancel your request, please press the hash key. That is star 1 to ask a question or make a comment. It appears we have no questions at this time. Please continue.
Let me mention that if our listeners have any questions that they don't want to ask over the phone, you can always send us an email at ieapressoffice@iea.org, and of course you can schedule an interview that way as well. If there are no further questions, we will wrap up today's presentation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. That does conclude our conference for today. Thank you for participating. You may all disconnect. Speakers, please